Three? Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And here we are. This is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor. And it is a cold morning. Right now it's about 53 degrees, but it was down in the 40s when I woke up. Took Skippy out at 5 a.m. But it's a cold. It's a cold spring. Kind of chilly cold. Saw some neighbors outside, and they were all bundled up as if it was wintertime. And here we are in springtime, and what do we have? Cold wind. And it's been windy for the last 3 days. We haven't had nothing but wind. But in the morning and at nighttime, it cools way down. So yesterday, the president came out and he said that the banking system is safe. All the banks are just hunky-dory. Everything's wonderful in the banking world. Don't believe that lie. And it is a big-time lie. I mean, if you were to watch the stocks of all of these smaller banks, they're in trouble. They're down 24%, 20%. And we're going to have some more situations where some banks may go under, may be taken over by the FDIC again. One up over in California again is PacWest. That fell by 24% on Tuesday in the stock market. And the stock was halted for volatility multiple times because there's something going on in the financial statements where their losses are great. So the California-based bank of this PacWest was not the only regional lender under pressure. Shares of Western Alliance dropped 20%. The SPDR S&P Regional Banking ETF sank by 7.6%. And the deep declines, as what we saw yesterday, deep in losses in the sector from Monday. Now, if you look at their financial statements, they have not done too hot. Regulators seized troubled regional bank First Republic and sold it to J.P. Morgan Chase. Now, I have a concern with that, and I'm going to express it to you that this is a much bigger bank, but it's taking on the smaller banks, and they are buying these banks at a huge discount, but also they're not taking on the liabilities of the companies. I don't know how the FDIC did that, but when you buy a company, normally you take on the debt or the bad expenditures of the company. So the steep declines, deep in losses in the sector of the banking sector from Monday and Tuesday, and let's see what happens through the weekend. So when we have FDIC looking at all these banks and seeing the weaknesses within the banks, we as depositors have to say, how safe am I? How safe is my money in those banks? It's one of the biggest questions we have to ask. Now, First Republic reported a decline in deposits of about 40% during the during the first quarter of 2023. And it was raising questions about how the bank could survive on its own. Well, we have the same situation happening in some of these smaller banks where they are losing their depositors, and those depositors are going to the much bigger banks, the Citi, the B of A, the Wells Fargo, the Chase. They're going to those types of banks. So we have to watch that very carefully. How safe is our bank? Do we have our money in multiple banks? Now, the amount of, in these smaller banks, the amount of uninsured depositors is really high. It's up in 90%. We have to be very careful with that. Because if the bank goes bad, the depositors who are in that 90+% of not being insured is going to put a drain on all of us as depositors and also on the federal government, the FDIC, the Federal Reserve. Now, I'm going to tell you my theory on this whole thing. We have had a series of problems in management where the board of directors really probably should not be on those boards of directors. They probably don't even know how to read these financial statements. They don't have the experience of running their own businesses. If they do, it's at a very far off distance. So they don't know what questions should be asked. They don't know what should be looked at. I saw one report this morning that said the board of directors of these companies and banks are not asking the right question on the security of their companies, which means internet security, banking security, everything. So if they're not asking those questions, or if they're asking the wrong questions, then expect exposure in those types of businesses and banks. You don't put your mom on the board of directors if she doesn't understand how to read a financial statement. The most basic information on that company, the life story of that company is in that financial statement. And if they don't know how to read it, they don't know how to ask the right questions. And I think that's where we stand at the moment, is that we've got too many people that are serving on these banks that should not be there. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about JP Morgan Chase. Has it grown too large by buying up all these banks that have had financial problems? So you have to ask that question too. Is the ability of these banks able to grow by buying up all these banks? Are they safe, and what is the financial conditions that they're buying into? I tell you, we hear so much about these individuals who run banks, but we never question it. We never question who's running. If you have your money in a bank, who's running my bank? Who's running my safety of my money that's in there? And we have to start asking that question. So that's it about the banking industry. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, okay? Today we received news that a lot of companies are closing down their operations. And they're closing down their retail facilities. The store Tuesday morning announced that they're declaring bankruptcy and they're shutting down all their stores. They're not trying to sell it. They're not trying to do anything. They just sell it. They're just shutting it down. Jenny Craig is warning that they may shut down, or really what it's warning is mass layoffs, closing some companies' 500 weight loss centers. When you see that happening, that kind of gives you a good indication that this company is probably not that strong. I think, oh, by the way, Federal Express closing down more locations, planning to furlough some employees. We have a problem. We have a problem in the business world, in the banking world, of companies that are not able to keep up with the inflation that you and I are being hit with every single day. They're just not able to do it any longer. It's a sad situation to see. You see that Walmart has shut down, but a lot of their shutdowns are because of security issues and being ripped off. CVS shut down some stores. I mean, all of these companies that we rely upon have been shutting down. Economic issues and law enforcement issues. the rule of law is not being enforced, and they are not protecting the city governments and county governments are not protecting the retailers that they have in their community. Now, what I think, this is a good time. We see all this bad stuff going on, right? If you've got children, this is probably the best time to sit down and talk to your kids about finances and about saving money. And you can do it in a whole bunch of different ways that makes it fun for the child, but he also understands what you're going through as you're faced with inflation and you're faced with higher interest rates and trying to meet the payment for the place that you live and the utilities that have gone up also. It's a good time to train your children on finances. And you can do that through a whole bunch of different ways. A good way, and you can do it very small, you don't need a big piece of land to do this, is by growing a garden. If you were able to grow some carrots, some radishes, some vegetables that they could see growing up and that they can eat and not having to go to the store to purchase it, you're one step ahead. You've trained your child in a good way. You can also make them allowances, having them work for it, so they understand that that allowance they're getting is something that they're working for. Not that they get automatically, but they're working for. And then the other thing, and I used to love to do this because I love Monopoly. If you break out the board games that have a financial or business connotation to it, and they've got them for small kids way down to the early ages, you learn so much. You learn so much. And then assign your kids some work. Put them to work. And then make them invest some money. I tell you, when I was a little kid, every week the bank would come to our grade school and we would make deposits into our bank account. I learned so much about saving money. And every dime that I had, I was saving money because I was saving up to buy something. But I had to work for it. I had to chop wood. I had to saw wood. I had to get the wood ready for the winter. I had to work on my dad's boat. I had to do a whole bunch of different things. I had chores and a responsibility for the money that I received as an allowance. And I put it into the bank and I saved. And at the end, I got what I wanted to get. And I still had money in the bank. So if you can sit down and talk with your children, and maybe you can go to the bank and open up a bank account and start the process of teaching them how to save. Now is the best time. When we're in these economic downturn, 50 cents here, $1 here, whatever it may be, if they are putting it away into a bank, and if they are focused on doing something with that money, that provides them with a drive to save and a drive to learn the prices as they're shopping for things that they want to buy. Now's the best time. Teach your kids about money. Sit down and talk with them about money so they understand what this means to be inflated and what it means to have bills go up and not enough money to pay for some of these bills. It's good for them. Teach them. Now you probably say, I don't want them to have that stress. It's not stress if you make it into a game. If you make it into a reality show. Make it interesting. Listen, this is Mike Lodge. If you would like to have more contact with me, if you'd like to sit down with me in a confidential meeting, you can go to my website at www.lodge.co.com. If you have a business question, go to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. This is Mike Lodge. Everybody go out and have a great day. Love you guys. Bye-bye.